Hi, everybody. I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about something that's been on my mind for a little while. Um, I've been thinking about why do we as Americans spend so much money? What what is it that makes spending money so easy? And because spending money is so easy, it's just easy to get into debt. And so I've just been thinking, why? Why do we do this? And that led me to be thinking about the history of money. And I wondered, does the history of money have anything to do with why it is so easy to get into debt today? And after thinking about it and doing a little bit of research, I decided that, yeah, I think the history of money does play a huge part into why we as Americans, or even people all around the world, why we why we get into so much debt. And so I'm going to walk you through this, and then you can make your own decision why why it's so easy to get into debt. So I want to start out with the question, what is money? So go back to your high school um, economics class. And if you remember, money is simply a medium of exchange for goods and services. Now, money has evolved a lot and changed over the past several centuries and millennia, actually, that the earth has been in existence. And so I wanted to talk about the first form of money, which is called bartering. And this is the form of exchange that the earliest humans on Earth used, bartering. And bartering is simply exchanging goods and services that you have for the goods and services that another person has. So, for example, let's just say you have a whole bunch of corn, but you need meat to feed your family. Well, another man over here just so happens to have some meat, but he needs corn. So you get together and you exchange your corn for his meat and his meat for your corn, and everybody is happy. Well, as the population of people on the earth increased, people started moving away from their little family units and spread out and created towns and cities. And the whole bartering exchange method became a lot more difficult. I mean, let's just say there is a person who does not have anything of value to exchange. Well, it's going to be very difficult for that person to survive because he doesn't have anything to exchange. And because of this difficulty, people moved away from the bartering method to another form of currency or money, which were, well, some societies used cattle as a medium of exchange. Others used things as simple as shells. They were called cowrie shells. The problem with this new money, though, was that it was very finite and very limited. I mean, you were limited to the number of shells that you could find, or you were limited to the number of cattle that you had. And imagine, probably not everybody had cattle. Maybe you couldn't find cowrie shells. So this was not very convenient, not very easy. And we as humans, well, our human nature is we are creatures of convenience. We like the easy life, right? And so if something is too hard, we change it, we make it easy. Okay, so now we have the cowrie shells, we have cattle, not very easy. And so actually in about, well, 500 BC, we moved away from the cowrie shells and the cattle. And the first form of coinage was created. It was the Lydians in a city called Lydia that created the first form of coins, and it was just kind of a rudimentary coin. But that was followed very soon after by the Chinese, and they actually created coinage out of lumps of silver. And usually they had a little hole in them so they could put them on a chain or something to keep them all on their person. Can you imagine how heavy that might have been? I mean, maybe you were just like, I can't carry everything because it's so heavy. Well, you know what? The Chinese, they used their coins for about 500 years and then it just kind of disappeared. And they went back, well, they created, well, they just didn't use it for a while. But then paper money was born in about the 1700s in Europe. Well, can you imagine how freeing that might have been? You no longer had to carry around bags of coins. Can you imagine how inconvenient? I'm not going to say it was hard. It was just inconvenient to carry around these bags of coins everywhere. Going to a store to buy anything, you'd have to dump everything out of your bag, count out your coins, put everything back in. And remember, we are creatures of convenience. And so people needed a different form of money. Well, the paper money was created in about 1700s. So now we have banknotes. Well, that's great and all, but they had to be backed up by something substantial because paper does not have any value. And so people wanted something of value to back up their paper money. Okay, so now we have the gold standard is introduced in Europe in the 1800s. It kind of boggles my mind that it took them so long to create the gold standard. So it was the late 1800s that the gold standard was born in Europe, and it took us here in America until 1900 for the gold standard to be implemented in the country so that the gold would back up our banknotes, our dollar bills. And then that didn't last very long though, because again, we are creatures of convenience. And here's the deal. If our dollar bills were only backed by gold, that meant we had a finite amount of dollar bills that we could create. Well, I'm sure this was hugely inconvenient for many people, businesses, the banks. If they could only create so many banknotes, the Fed, which was created, I think, in 1914, they could only print so many paper dollars. But something happened in 1929. And if you remember, again, go back to high school. Remember in 1929, the Great Depression happened. Well, this just so happened to be the event that was the catalyst for getting rid of the gold standard. So in 1930, the gold standard was revised and gold was devalued. So no longer did gold have the value that it needed to have. So the United States moved away. See the fly flying in the back. The United States moved away from the gold standard, in fact, eliminated it completely. So now we have our paper currency. Some people would call it fiat currency, which is currency that is not backed by anything of value. The thing that this allowed banks to do, the Fed to do, is to print pretty much unlimited amounts of paper currency. Again, remember economics, that when you have too much of something, it devalues the currency. And so our money, our currency, our dollar bills started to be devalued. What do you do about that? Well, you've got to get rid of the currency. And so when was it? Did you know in 1966, the Delaware, Bank of Delaware created the first debit card, but the technology that was not, we didn't have good enough technology to be able to use these debit cards. And so it wasn't for another 20, probably 25 years that we could use debit cards. But, in the 80s, the early 90s, debit cards started to come into existence and we could use them all around. We had credit cards. Well, credit cards, if we have plastic money, then that just makes spending money so much easier. Well, we still have the paper money though, and so people are still keeping track of what they spend. We still have that finite amount of money that we can spend. So they've got to do something to get rid of that because now companies, stores, businesses, banks, they're all starting to get greedy. And they're saying we need people to spend more money because it's all about our bottom line. We need to make a profit. We need to make a lot of money. And so debit cards come into play a lot. And so now we have plastic cards that we carry around. Rarely do we carry around paper money and pay for our goods and services with paper money. It's all with a plastic card. It is so easy to spend money. So we go to the store, we use our card, the money comes straight out of our account. There is no pain involved with spending money. We don't see the dollar bills leave our wallet. Our wallet does not get a little bit lighter. We don't see it. So it just is taken out of our checking account. Makes it super easy. And then nowadays, we don't even have to have our plastic card. Now we just have to have our phone right here, just have to have our phone. We have Apple Pay, we have Samsung Pay, we have Venmo, we have Stripe, we have all sorts of easy ways to exchange and to purchase our goods and services. So if you see, again, we are creatures of convenience. And have you noticed advertisements? Companies, they are manipulating us into believing we have to spend our money. Now, anyway, that was just the history of money. And you notice how money has evolved over thousands and thousands of years to become the convenient form of payment that it is now. And money will continue to evolve to become even more convenient. Now, what do we do about that? Because it is so easy to spend money. How do we combat that? Well, that'll be my next video. But anyway, if you want to stop this spending habit for yourself, I want you to know that you can. You have the power. You do not have to do what the system tells you to do. You don't have to. And we've been led to believe, though, that a lot of times that we have to do what they say. You don't. You don't. You are powerful. You still have autonomy. You can choose for yourself where you want to spend your money and if you want to spend your money. But we have to be smart about it. And that's going to be my next video. We'll talk about things that you can do instead of what they are telling you to do. But I hope this video was interesting. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope it got the wheels turning in your head and you're thinking about the history of money and how it has evolved to become the easy that it is today. And the easy has made it so, well, easy to get ourselves into debt. So anyway, thank you. I will see you soon. Bye.